Greetings, Cabane52. This is part 2 of the debate between Cabane52 and I. This video will be mostly refuting Cabane's claims. We'll start with his radiometric dating statement. He claims that all forms of radiometric dating agree on the age of the Earth. That's interesting. And that's also the biggest crock of nothing I have ever heard. Agree? Are you serious? Methods of radiometric dating results vary extremely radical. Not only that, but with every method there's about a 96% error in the results, like carbon-14 dating, for example. One result was from 16,000 to 30,500. They call that an estimate? I could guess how old it is and do way better than that. Two methods did the same substance. One said it was 800 million years old, and one said it was 1.3 billion years old. That's a 500 million year difference. You might think that's not that far apart. It's 500 million years. Do you know how long that is? Think, 500 million years. Think about how much could happen in 500 million years. And they call that close. That's not even remotely close. There are three basic assumptions that every radiometric dating method makes. One, that the initial conditions of the sample are known accurately. This includes any daughter isotope atoms in the sample at their time of formation. Isochron plots may help to indicate the presence of such daughter isotopes. 2. That we can tell whether or not the rock has exchanged atoms with the surroundings during its history. 3. That the nuclear decay rate, or half-life, of the parent isotope has remained constant since the rock was formed. These assumptions throw the entire technique completely off balance. So, wild and crazy dates are to be expected from using these methods. I think radiometric dating is pure baloney and doesn't prove a thing. Thank you. Now on to his Grand Canyon statement. He makes a statement, says, if it was formed by the flood, then it would be shallow and a wide bay. But the Grand Canyon has a narrow, deep channel. And it's very, very deep. And it's very huge, too. He says that the evidence, refutes the creation interpretation beyond a shadow of a doubt. I find that extremely difficult to believe. Let me point out a few flaws. Okay, this was no ordinary flood, okay? This was a full-scale, worldwide, total engulfment. It wasn't just a little flood where a little rain came and the river got a little over the top. No, it was a worldwide flood. Maybe that's why the canyon is so big, because it was such a big flood. You can watch my video on the Grand Canyon, Proof of Creation, for more details. I give some of the details that I say in that video in this video, so you might not want to check it out after all. Okay, so this is no ordinary flood, and since this is no ordinary flood, we're talking about a massive amount of water. A massive amount. You can't use flood canyons today to try and claim that a worldwide flood didn't form the Grand Canyon 4,500 years ago, or 44. You just can't do that, because you can never tell what water is going to do if it's flowing fast enough, or there is enough of it. So you made several flaws in that statement, okay? Today we see two beach lines on the edge of the Grand Canyon that were different lakes. Were Great Lakes. Two Great Lakes. This is my theory. When the flood water was running off, these lakes filled up and spilled over the top of the soon-to-be-formed Grand Canyon. For example, with a dam. When a dam breaks, the weakest point is instantly eroded. So it spilled over the top of the lake. Thus, the Grand Canyon would have been formed very quickly. And besides, if you want to believe the evolution interpretation, here's what has got to make that possible. Millions of years old Earth, which doesn't exist, and the ability for a river to flow uphill for millions of years. I believe that this is very strong evidence that the flood created the Grand Canyon in a short time, not the Colorado River carved the Grand Canyon over millions of years. Also, if it was carved by the river, then we should see a delta, a place where washed out mud is deposited. We don't. So, I believe that I provided adequate evidence that the Grand Canyon formed by the flood and not by the Colorado River. Thank you. Now, on to his ERV statement. ERV stands for endogenous retrovirus, or something like that. Probably not saying it right, but that's basically what it stands for. A retrovirus is a virus that gets inside your cell and reproduces itself. Well, he claims that that they attack later, and yes, that's true. HIV is also a retrovirus. But I don't know if he realizes this, but not all retroviruses are harmful. In fact, many of them are actually useful to the human race and species of animals. Like, certain retroviruses help animals to reproduce. Certain retroviruses do lots of other stuff for the human body and stuff. Well, he claims that since we share ERVs with chimpanzees and pretty much every other species of animal on the planet, then that proves that we are all descended from a common ancestor. I don't believe that. Remember, most retroviruses are actually useful. They're not all bad. They can help us digest our food better. They can help us see better, maybe. They have proven not to be junk DNA, like the evolutionists say. That's their evidence for evolution, like poor design and stuff, junk DNA. You know what I mean? So they're actually very useful, some of them. So how do I explain the fact that we all have ERVs, like every living thing? Well, here's my theory. I believe that God created animals and I believe that God created the animals and humans with built-in retroviruses that make them useful. With useful retroviruses that help them reproduce and stuff. That's my theory. And that's why I believe that we all have a retrovirus somewhere in us that helps us with something that is probably unknown right now, but later we shall discover it. So I believe that God created everything with a built-in retrovirus to help against something and to be useful, like to help reproduce or see better or digest your food better. So that's how I explain the retrovirus part. I know he might think that this is a mediocre explanation, but this is just my theory. You might think it's not credible, but in my opinion it is. Thanks.